It's reasonably common for anime and manga to have a pretty heavy focus on friendship and camaraderie, especially if it's action shonen or sports based. This focus seems to be far less prevalent, however, in visual novels, which is perhaps unsurprising since a lot of VNs are either harems or reverse harems. With all that time spent picking your perfect waifu, who has time for friends or purely platonic relationships? All that being said, there are still a couple of VNs that recognize that it is possible to have characters that our dear protagonist cares deeply about without wanting to sleep with them. One such VN would be Little Busters, and another is the story I'm reviewing today. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Maji de Watashi ni Koishinasai, or Majikoi for short. A brief plot summary of Majikoi goes like this. A tight-knit group of friends go to high school in Kawakami City, a place famous for its samurai heritage. The girls in the group are badass martial artists, and the guys, while less competent at fighting, all have their own talents. They hang out and have crazy adventures that no high school student should ever have, like busting drug smuggling operations, winning big at illegal gambling dens, and participating in an international free-for-all style fighting tournament with Japan's Prime Minister. Because hell, why not? Sounds great, right? Well, there's also a fair bit of high school slice-of-life comedy and derping around too. Honestly, there's not all that much more to say about the background and plot of Majikoi. The story alternates between epic and silly and mundane and silly, never taking itself particularly seriously and frequently breaking the fourth wall. You know what? Instead of talking about all the characters, I'll just do bad impressions of them instead. That should be relatively informative. I'm a girl magnet and the protagonist of this story. I'm slightly less of an interesting mastermind than the Lucian Light, and I have a bizarre obsession with hermit crabs. I'm crazy stalker girl, Yamato is mine! Hello everyone? I'm just a shy underclassman who wants to make more friends. Senpai, please notice me. I am invincible! But bored. Find me someone to fight. I will work hard too so I can be strong just like Nesa. For great justice! Admire my massive muscles. Let's go on an adventure. Take no notice of the computer nerd. Well, anyways, following up the terrible impressions, what to add? Well, first of all, I skipped over a lot of the characters, because this series has a pretty huge cast of them. Impressively, most of the cast also stays involved in most routes, and they get progressively more developed in each route you read. The relationships between all the characters are also very well fleshed out, and the interactions between the different factions in the story, as well as within each faction, are a pleasure to read. Majikoi is hilarious. It contains a good mix of slapstick humor, situational humor, and a ton of anime, gaming, and VN related references. It also absolutely lives by the rule of cool. Would you ever be able to split a school into two teams, arm them with medieval weaponry, and send them off to duke it out in the mountains? Probably not, but it's fun as hell to watch. Would you ever enter an international fighting tournament with the express purpose of making enough prize money to pay down the national debt? Once again, probably no, but that doesn't mean it doesn't make for a very amusing storyline. Majikoi is a story that's equal parts silly and awesome. Also, as I already mentioned in the previous section, the character relations in this story are very well done. The friendships and camaraderie between characters is demonstrated far more through their actions than their words. Honestly, I saw certain parts of my own interactions with my friends played out in the game. I wouldn't say that any of the character relations were entirely realistic, but they certainly felt genuine. The biggest problem with Majikoi is that it doesn't have enough low points to make the high points really shine. Majikoi has a number of conflicts which could have led to awe-inspiring climaxes, but they never really got serious enough, or are characters desperate enough to really generate any amount of satisfaction at the eventual arrival of victory. Majikoi also has a number of moments that are clearly supposed to be emotional roller coasters, but it never drags us as the readers far enough down into the depths of despair for those moments to be truly touching. As a result, there's relatively few points that really grab you and pull you into the story and make you that much more invested in what's going on. You almost always just have the feeling of, well, nothing to worry about, everything will be fine. There are also several more minor problems. The story has quite a number of side routes, which are incredibly boring and don't really go anywhere. Admittedly, this is optional content, so you don't have to read it, but given that I had to read it in order to write this review, I have no qualms discounting this a minus towards the VN's overall quality. Lastly, I would also comment that a couple of the characters in the story are really annoying. I think they're supposed to be funny, but if so, they fail miserably. Majikoi is great fun to read with good characters, good action, and unfortunately relatively few moments that actually truly stand out. I'd say that it's certainly worth trying out at some point, but not a you must go and download this now type story. If you do decide to read it, I have a couple of additional comments. 1. Chris's route has some non-con H scenes, so some people will likely find that offensive. 2. Be aware that in Momoyo's route, some of the questions are timed. 3. I would recommend only doing the main heroine's route and the tree I gave route. I found all the other routes to be unremarkable at best. And lastly, 4. If you ever get to a choice that reads go with him as one of the options, I would highly recommend choosing any option other than that one. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the review. Thanks for listening. Cheers!